Intentional weight loss, a happy, healthy life.
Hello there and welcome to the next video in the Lose Weight for Good series. I wanted to carry on from where we started last time. So, as you know, I told you before that I was 18 stone 4, which was just under 250 pounds, which equated to a BMI of actually nearly 35, a couple of points away from 35. And I was somewhat amazed to find out that with the BMI at 35, from looking at statistics and data from the life insurance industry, we find that actually I was going to lose 8 years of my life voluntarily. The average life for somebody at that weight compared to somebody at a healthy weight is 8 years shorter. And I found that astounding. I mean, I really found that astounding. But as well as that, there was also this statistic that stood out that said that at the same time I would suffer something like 20 years worth of additional optional illnesses, either through not recovering from things as quickly as I could, or from picking up other weight-related conditions, or 20 years, 20 additional years, which when you add those together with the 8, meant that basically a third of my life was going to be materially affected through medical issues or through not being alive, totally as a result of my lifestyle choices. And I found that a really troubling series of numbers. I hope you're writing some of these numbers down in your journals, because it's really important that you're able to come back to these. So it was 8 years off my life and 20 years of optional illness. But as well as this, just by being overweight, so not being as large as I was, but just by having a BMI score that was not 25 as is recommended, but moving up towards 30, it would increase the rate of having a heart attack by something like 32%. And that if you go up to 35, believe it or not, the chances of having a heart attack are 81% greater. 81% greater if you carry on being at that sort of weight. And I just wasn't prepared to gamble with that at all. And I think, as I'd said to you before, your resilience, your ability to cope with stresses. Blood pressure medications are given in far greater quantities to people that are significantly overweight. Asthma rates are higher, diabetes rates are higher, rates of depression, general levels of confidence, even things as suicide rates are more common with people with a BMI equivalent to the level where I was. So I just wasn't in that space where I wanted to carry on there at all. And I love the fact that as I've got lighter and as I've got trimmer and as I've stayed at my healthy BMI, actually I recover from illnesses much faster, and the world is great. And these were not health outcomes that when I was eating the food I was eating, that I was positively choosing. And I really want to say that again. I did not at any point see the memo that said, let's get to be a BMI of 35. It just did not exist. It was all by accident. It was all by looking in the short term. And there's a great phrase that I hear a lot and I use a lot, which is that common sense is rarely common practice. And it's so true. It is so true. By looking at everything that I ate just in the individual rather than in the where do I want to go, I really have got myself into a bad space. But as we discussed in the previous video, 60% of the population, 60%, are in the same situation that they need to lose at least 14 pounds in weight. And I just feel really troubled that so many people have got to where they are by accident, not because they set out to say, I'm okay, I'm good with that, I'm really good with that. I introduced you as well to the concept before of a TDEE calculator, which stands for your total daily energy expended, is what TDEE stands for. And basically just in breathing and your organs working and your body functioning and you're just doing anything really, you're burning energy, you're burning calories. And the TDEE calculator that I spoke to you about before is going to be really important, because what we're going to do now is we're going to go onto the TDEE calculator, and I want to go to that site, so tdeecalculator.net, and I want you to put your details in. So put the video on pause for a second, and I want you to put your details in. It'll ask you for your age, it'll ask you for your gender, it'll ask you for your size and your height. And it's going to give you a number, and it's a really important number. So I'll put a space here where you can pause. but then I'll carry on with the video on the assumption that you've come back again. So you've calculated your TDEE and you've got this number, and this number will probably be somewhere around the 2,000 to 3,000 number depending on your size. And for me that number was something like 2,400, 2,500 calories. And there's another thing that comes out of the TDEE calculator which is really important, which is we know, not we suspect, but we know that if we eat the same number of calories as we have in our TDEE number, our weight will neither go up nor will it come down. That's just the way that these things scientifically proven to work. So I know people get nervous about calories, but I tell you, if you look at every other diet plan that's ever been existed, there are people who say this works and this one doesn't. The one that always works is making sure that you control the amount of food that goes into your system. And it's really not as hard as we may think. So we have a TDEE number, and it's crucial that we all stay focused on what that number is. Now, the other piece of information that you also need is that to lose 1 pound of fat, you have to have a calorie deficit of 3,500 calories. So we'll say that again. 1 pound of fat on your body is equivalent to 3,500 calories. And quite conveniently, if you divide 3,500 by 7, which is the numbers of days in a week, you end up with 500 calories. So you know by scientific fact that if you take your TDEE number and you take 500 off it, so if it was 2,500, it becomes 2,000. If it was 2,300, it becomes 1,800. You know that if you do that sum and you take 500 calories off your TDEE number, that will lose you weight at the rate of 1 pound a week. And I want you to do that, exactly that. So we know by going onto the TDEE calculator exactly how much energy our body needs to stay the same size, and we're going to consciously say we're going to have a 500 calorie a day deficit because that will help us lose 1 pound for every week that we have. And it's so important that we get to the simple maths. Now, if you're not looking to lose too much weight, but you're actually looking to improve lifestyle and you want to go slower, if you lose 250 calories a day off your TDEE, you will lose weight at ½ pound. So it's directly proportioned because we know 3,500 calories equates very simply to 1 pound of fat. So it's really important that you understand these base facts. So I want you to make sure that you use TDEE and it will give you that overall number. Now, another thing which is really important for this whole process, you don't need to do this sum very often, but I do want you to do it every month, because as you get lighter, your body will burn less calories because it's not carrying as much around. So once a month, so put a reminder in your telephone. Put a reminder in your telephone right now, first of the month, make sure you redo your TDEE numbers. Because if you don't do that, later on you'll find that you won't be losing weight quick enough because you won't have the right deficit. And it doesn't move by vast sums, 50 or 100 in total, but you do need to go back and do it regularly. And if you discipline yourself to follow this, you'll be in a really good place. Okay, so we know what TDEE is, we know how many calories forms a pound of flesh, and we know that we've got to make sure that we can write every month what our new TDEE number is. And then it gets very, very simple. Now, at the same time, we also said we wanted you to download MyFitnessPal. Now, MyFitnessPal becomes really important to you because MyFitnessPal is where you're going to record all of the food that you eat. Now, I want to say something that's very important and really critical to this process. So get your journals ready because you must write this down. The difference between people who lose weight and stay at a healthy weight and those people who lose weight and put it all back on again is the people who stay at the same weight write everything down. So even now, 8 years after I've lost all my weight, at every single meal I write down there and then this is what I've eaten, and I go through the meal And sometimes when I'm out, for instance, working in restaurants, I can't be exactly certain, but I can have a very good guess. And because I've been doing it a long time, I can get pretty accurate on what the weights and measures are, and we'll come to that later on in the course. But I write it down every single day. Every single day. I make sure that I do not eat more calories than I'm supposed to. That's why I stay the size that I am. But I want you to understand this is a habit. It is absolutely a habit, and it's a habit that's going to keep you in a very, very good space for the rest of your life. So some people at this point are going to be sitting there thinking, what, really? I have to put something into my phone or into my computer every single day? Yes, you do. Because it's a lifestyle habit that will keep you safe and keep you well. And if you go back to the 3 questions that we asked about why, all of those positive things, why you're doing this work, who's going to benefit out of it, and who are all the people that are going to benefit out of it, what do you look like, what do you want to look like, all of those hopes and dreams rest on you being able to take the next step into, I'm going to get the app, I'm just going to gently play with it because it's very intuitive, I'm just going to input meals into each one. Now, if you get stuck, if you go onto YouTube, there are lots and lots of videos about how to use MyFitnessPal or MyNet Diary. There'll be lots there. If you still get stuck, send me an email and I will send you further details about how to use this fantastic app, because it really is great, but it's very, very simple. And I reckon I take something like a minute a day putting my food into it. It's that quick, it remembers all of your food, it remembers your favourite meals. So it's slower to put in at first, but once you've been using it for even a short period of time, it gets really, really easy, very, very quick, okay? So you need to make sure that you're really accurate. In the opening days of the plan that we're going with, it's quite a good idea to eat foods where you've got the calorific content shown. And one of the things I love, absolutely love, about MyFitnessPal is the fact that you can actually scan from the barcode and it puts all the details straight into your phone and you don't have to do any manual inputs. Have a think about that. You've got your scales as well. Make sure that you do actually weigh your food where possible. And it's a discipline and it's a detail. We're going to come back to this again, okay? So this is a heavy piece of content for you today because it's actually about some of the actions. So let's just go for a quick recap. I want to make sure that you've gone to TDEE, that you've calculated your weight in terms of the number of calories that you need to have to maintain that weight. I want you to do the sum where you say, I'm either going to lose a pound or I'm going to lose half a pound a week, and either take 500 calories off that number or 250 calories off that number. And I want you to start inputting your food into MyFitnessPal. Now, when you go into the goals area, that's goals as in G-O-A-L-S, go into the goals area of MyFitnessPal, you will find that there's an ability to put the right number of calories in that you've calculated from your TDEE. It's really, really simple, but do make sure you do that. And then you'll be set up so that we've got the first level of the basics done, so that you're set up to be very conscious about what you're eating. Okay? So most of us are now going to be eating somewhere around 1800 to 2200 calories a day. And it's really not difficult. And in the next session, we're going to move a bit more into how I spread those calories out throughout the day and some of the eating patterns that I maintain. But for this video, let's just worry about making sure that we've followed the process, we've got lots of notes in the journal, and we can go and get ourselves set up on this first piece. Play with that, and then come back to the next video where we'll go into some further detail about how this can work. I hope you're finding it okay to keep up with. It shouldn't be too difficult. If it is, please do reach out and send me an email and I will absolutely respond back to you. Okay, so thanks for watching. Enjoy the notes. Make sure you keep reading all the notes from the program, and we'll catch up with you at the next session. Take care.
Intentional way.